Hi, and welcome to the Pen Wizards casting using the mystical molds for pen blanks. Today we're going to cast a Wall Street pen blank using the mystical mold red. There's some certain things that you need to have before you even start. Safety reasons, you definitely want to carry a pair of extra gloves with you. I'm wearing a pair of gloves now. Also, you want to be in a well ventilated room because the polyester resin does have a very strong odor. And as you can see, I have already measured out the polyester resin in a mixing cup, and it basically takes about an ounce and a quarter of resin depending on what you're going to cast. Other things I recommend you have is a dental pick works good, some mixing sticks. You're going to need, again, I suggest a second pair of gloves, some toothpicks, and a cup of hot water if you don't use a vacuum chamber or pressure pot. Also make sure you have on hand your hardener and of course your mystical mold. Again, our mystical mold Wall Street version can do 2 pen blanks at the same time. Now we are going to cast a snakeskin mold that I've already prepared, and what I like to do with snakeskin, because certain snakeskins will absorb the polyester resin and cause it to turn black. You'll find that python is a very good example. Today we're going to be using a rattlesnake skin. Now with the mystical mold, I've set them up there because I don't like turning square blanks, especially if you're a novice at it. You'll find that you'll have problems with a lot of chip outs if you've never turned any type of acrylic or polyester resin before. So I created these blanks to be round. They also are the correct dimensions for the length, other than some slight trimming, for the particular pens that you wish to use. We have several different pens. We have the Atlas, we have the Wall Street, the Junior Majestic, and I also have a Euro pen mold, plus we also have a universal mold if you want to cast solid blanks and then later on drill them out. Now I'm going to show you how to place your blank tube into the mold and secure it. And this is done very simply. You'll have a stopper and your tube. You place the tube inside the mold, wiggle the stopper until it goes into the tube, and then take the second tube, or the second stopper, and place it in the other end of the tube. That's all there is to it. Now, what I like to use the dental pick for is I move the tube over just a little bit on both sides so I have a slight gap between the mold and the pen tube. Alright, and basically, I don't know if you can see this or not, but that's pretty much what it is. Now, for those who again don't have a pressure pot or a vacuum chamber, a very easy way of doing this without having bubbles appear inside your casting is, one, heat your mold up in about 120-125 degrees in a toaster oven for about 3 to 4 minutes. That'll make the mold nice and warm. We've already done this. And also have a cup of hot water that you can get out of the tap, and just make it as hot as you can take it out of there. And what you'll do is you'll do your mixing inside this cup of hot water. I've already pre-measured the polyester resin, and I'm setting it in the hot water so it gets warm. The reason why we want to have it warm is it'll get thin. It won't start setting up, but the thinner it is, the faster the air bubbles will rise to the top of your cast. Therefore, they won't be stuck around the tube. Now, 70 degrees, 75 degrees with an ounce and a quarter of resin. I always put about 5, maybe 6 drops, no more. More is sometimes not good. 6. Alright, we've just now placed 6 drops of the hardener in the polyester resin, and what I've seen a lot of people do, and they make big mistakes when they do this, is they want to stir it real fast. That will create air bubbles, and that is the last thing you want to do, is create air bubbles. So I like to do a nice slow figure 8 and just keep on mixing it. It doesn't take that long to do. They generally tell you to take about a minute or so to do. But I have found a slow figure 8 is plenty to mix up the resin with the hardener, and it helps eliminate a lot of air bubbles. While you're sitting here waiting, again, all this can be purchased from thepenwizard.com. We sell the polyester resin, and as I said, I treated the snake skin with a process called with color preserver, and we're going to be selling that too. A lot of times people have problems there if they're doing, give you an example, cigar wrappers and stuff. If they're white, a lot of times the polyester resin will bleach out any color that's in any type of a wrapper. Stamps also are a good example. So by treating the snake skin, the stamps, or any kind of a wrapper or paper with the color preserver, it prevents the polyurethane resin from bleaching it out. And believe me, I found that out the hard way. I lost a really nice cigar pen that I was creating because it just totally bleached out my label, and it was worthless. So anyway, we're still mixing here. One thing again I like to express a lot is safety. Always make sure that you're in a well ventilated room, and also you wear safety gloves and have an extra pair, because you never know when you might tear one. Believe me, you don't want to get this stuff on your hands. It's not that bad. You can wipe it off, but still, why have it on your hands if you don't need to have it on there? Alright, I think we're pretty much done here. It seems like it's well mixed. I always keep a little paper towel next to me for easy cleanup. Now, I'll make sure the camera's on right. Alright, there we go. Alright, now, when you're pouring your polyester resin, I always recommend that with this mold or anybody else's mold, always pour to one side of your pen tube. Very slow and as thin of a stream as you can possibly get it. Okay? And again, a nice even flow. Let it flow over the tube so it goes underneath the tube. And that'll help move any air bubbles that might get trapped, especially if you're doing a large embedment, like maybe little seashells or something like that. You don't want to trap any air bubbles you know, underneath that tube, so when you pull it out, you got air bubbles in your casting. Okay, now as you can see, we're at the top of our mold, a little bit there, and I'm going to try to focus this in a little bit further. I don't think I can, but anyway, we have absolutely no air bubbles right now forming, but when they do, you want to use a toothpick. Now a toothpick, here we got a couple here, a toothpick works really well, or a dental pick. With the polyurethane resin, it's kind of easy to move the air bubbles out of the way. You can actually pick them right out of the mold itself, and we got just a few here, not many. And I'm just moving them right out of the way. Better to have them on top than next to your tube, because nothing's worse than having a beautiful pen cast that you've made and have a big air bubble in a minute. Now a lot of times you can repair your casting by once you've turned it down to a point where you've cut into the air bubble, you can fill that air bubble with CA glue. Make sure it's nice and clean. Use a little air can of air to blow anything that's in there out of it, and just place a few drops of CA glue inside the air bubble. Work it around, but that, you know, there are times there where you might just get an air bubble and you're able to repair it. This looks really good here. We have no leaks. The stoppers Both work really well. What little air bubbles I did have, I've pretty much gotten out now. And the snake skin looks like it's doing really well in there. I don't see it discoloring at all. So anyway, now I'm going to let this sit for 24 hours. And in a controlled area, 24 hours, 75 degrees is about all you're going to need in order to remove your blank from the mystical mold. So we're going to shut it off now and come back in about 24 hours, and we're going to pull the blank out, and I'll show you how it worked out. And then we're going to I'll show you how to prep it for the lathe, and we're going to turn it. Alright, well, thanks a lot, and I'll see you in 24 hours.